Hello and welcome to another episode of the Jersey Football Chat. As always, Cass is here, and today we've got two of the Island referees on the show. We've got Richard Dyer and Paul Kemp. How are we all doing?
Yeah, it's good. Thanks very much for inviting us on.
Yeah,
Something new,
not too bad.
about it.
Surviving this COVID kind of a world of chaos that we're in at the moment. We're getting through it.
Exactly. How are you doing, Cass?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Thanks for coming on, boys. Nice to see you and get a different perspective on local football. We've had some really good guests in previous ones, coaches, managers, players. Some of the dressing room banter's been great, but we thought if we get another perspective on what's important in local football, and you guys, great that you can come on, and we've got some questions to talk through, and then just to get to understand more about a referee and what lies behind it.
Great.
Good.
Thanks again.
Sure.
Good to see you too, Cass.
Let's start with a quick question just in general for you both. Have you always been into football? Have you always been football people? Did you play growing up?
Go on,
Yeah,
Paul.
I'll let Richard
seniors
go
first. No, seniors first, Paul. Go
Yeah,
on.
age before beauty there.
Oh, crikey, he's definitely won that argument. I played football all the way through. Absolutely football mad. Manchester United fan since the mid-70s of all things. But football all the way through. In fact, me and Cass used to play against each other going back to junior days, didn't we, Cass? It's a long time ago now.
Oh, yeah, you must have maybe got a bad back trying to collect all the balls at the back of the net.
Yeah, absolutely. Whistled a few past me, I think. But great, absolutely love football. Always been a fan of it, and got into refereeing after a back injury, unfortunately. But it's great to still be part of the game. It's still got a massive passion for it.
Good. And you, Richard?
Again, similar, I suppose. From a young age, played football, enjoyed football. Played a lot of kind of at the school level at a reasonable level, and then it was kind of tatered off as I got about 14, 15. Didn't grow. I was also a goalkeeper, but didn't get the height and that I needed at that point. Memories of a kind of Chelsea fan standing in the shed end on my dad's shoulders, and then also kind of even younger watching him play football from conker trees most of the time. And memories. I don't know how it would go down in Jersey, but I remember one time a game having to be stopped because they had lost me. So I had 22 players, 2 linesmen, and a referee searching for me at about the age of 6. But I don't know how that would go down over here at the moment in the modern game.
No, I think just to be clear as well, Dan, you got Paul, obviously local, Richard from London, I take it. Is that your background?
Originally from Kent, just outside London.
Well, that'll be interesting. Then that'll give us more perspective on how you've seen things in the UK as well as since you've come over here. So that's good.
Yeah, for sure.
And the theme going on here with goalkeepers turning into referees. We get Gareth Bailey as well.
Yeah.
I wonder when Big Ewan Vanderfleet will be coming down to do his referees courses.
Well, he's very welcome to do the course, guys. Very welcome. We'd love to see him.
I think he'd be very good.
He's a fantastic goalkeeper. I'd be interested to see how he was as a referee.
There's a few others as well. There's Harry Walker, Kieran Pack, they're keepers. Yeah, there's a good few of you.
Yeah, it definitely seems to be a theme.
Isn't it?
Natural progression, that's the pathway from football to referee.
We'll take anyone. Right back, left back, goalkeeper, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Going on to the referees, when did the idea first come about for you two? When did you think, referee might be something that I want to do, to keep myself in the game, or just something I'm interested to do anyway?
I think for me, it was, as I say, mid-30s. I injured my back at work, and it meant really I couldn't play to any sort of level. And it was just, I desperately wanted to stay involved. I really enjoy just being around the game, being around the guys, everyone involved in football. It's fantastic. And like everyone really that's involved in football, it's something you look forward to as you're part of the week. And I looked at refereeing and I thought, I'll give it a go. I've helped out from time to time, and I'm glad I did. It's fantastic, and you're very much involved, part of a good community. And 99 times out of 100, you come away from a game feeling part of it and really enjoying yourself. So yeah, that was me.
Sure.
Good. And Paul, you did a bit of coaching as well, like with the kids? I know your son's a good young goalkeeper, Jack.
Yeah.
But do you still help out with that, or does the referee take over a little bit?
As you know, Cass, I'm more into the cricket now with coaching side of things. I keep it separate. Yes, I did do a little bit of coaching with the football with Jack, but I found it quite difficult coaching my own son, if I'm honest. And he got to a sort of age where he'd rather I was step back and did the sidelines. So that I get to be dad at football matches now, which I love. But I've gone into the cricket side.
I look forward to that day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's nice. No, it's wonderful. But I've got every admiration for people who coach. I think you do an amazing job. There's so many great people in local football, but my side of it, it's nice to actually be dad on that side, and I do the cricket side for coaching.
Yeah, for sure.
Busy man. And Richard?
Well, no intention of refereeing ever. I think as a player, I didn't even think I considered where the referee came from, who they were, what they did, and kind of. I think the only time I was frustrated is one time getting a red card. But I stopped playing football when my son was born, and then when he started showing an interest in football, got involved with the coaching a little bit, and it started out as putting out cones and kind of just helping out on a Sunday with them in the minis. And then got more interested in that and did my level 1 coaching. And it was at that point that I saw an advert for refereeing in the paper, and thought, wouldn't it be nice to know the rules of the game? So if I'm teaching young kids, wouldn't it be great if I knew what I was talking about rather than kind of second guessing it? And I think had the intention of purely going on to just learn and never actually really use it, and kind of there's a really good kind of mentoring facility when you take your when you do your training. And before I knew it, I stood there in front of a bunch of adults in the middle of a semicircle, blowing the whistle and going, "Oh, this isn't too bad most of the time. It's kind of I actually do enjoy this, and it's back in football." So that's where I kind of ended up getting back involved in it, or getting involved in the refereeing and that. So
really interesting, really interesting. Like you say, you only did it to kind of develop your understanding of the game, and you just kind of fell in love with it. It's great.
Yeah, I think it brought back a passion for football that I hadn't done whilst my two boys were younger. And kind of it reminded me how much I enjoyed football and how much I probably missed playing it. And as a result, I've actually ended up kind of going back to playing over 35s football, and not at a particularly great standard, but enjoying that camaraderie. And I think that's been good for me refereeing as well, because I think that's kind of reminded me about the passion as a player that sometimes can get lost when you're in the middle.
Yeah, and I think it's also great that if you're playing football with other footballers and they see that you're playing the game, you're whatever type of player you are, and they don't look at you as a referee. And it's trying to get that stigma across that we're all part of the game, and try to lift that actually, he's a good player. He's been a great goalkeeper. Gareth Bailey, I'm sure, was around Ireland selected team and played for Jersey. So what we'd love to see is more players move into the game, and this is great to get this insight that we've had players that have played and then move along, because there is some refs that haven't played local football or came across and they've just focused on the refereeing, which some people don't really understand or ever get to hear about.
Yeah, and I think as well there's some people that perhaps haven't played much football but still have a passion for football and kind of supporting and sit there within the kind of refereeing, and it's what I get from talking to the referees is just a passion for football, whatever side of it is. It's kind of a real enjoyment for the game that you get a buzz out of.
And Richard, do you get your football fix as a referee similar to what you had as a player, or is it totally different?
It's different. It is different. I think kind of where better to be sometimes than kind of 5 yards behind the player who's banging it in the back of the net. You've got the best view on the pitch, really. So you get a buzz from that and you see it. It's not the same as when you're in the winning team and things like that. You have your own personal kind of goals, I think, and kind of enjoyments when you've come away and you feel that you've had a good game and kind of you've managed something well. But refereeing can be a bit lonely. There are times that it's a real luxury when you go out as a team of three and kind of you have that support from each other. The fact we use the comms over here when we get the opportunities to is good, because it's that kind of camaraderie that you would get. Yeah, the comms pieces, the communication earpiece. Because it's that kind of little bit of reassurance that when you've done something right and kind of reminded that kind of, well, back off, walk up, kind of, it's just that support that you get that makes the game a much more enjoyable, because it's you're part of a team as you're doing it. So.
As well when you're wired up. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
How hard is it when it is just you and 22 men on each side just shouting constantly sometimes?
Yeah, I think it's a fair shout from Richard, actually. When you play the game, you're with 11 other guys, 15 in a squad, whatever, and you win games. And camaraderie is brilliant. But when you're a team of three, it's a huge support. It's and it's a real difference. And it can be quite a lonely place, as Richard says, when you're on your own. I mean, 9 times out of 10, you'll have a game and it'll be great. And I'm a local lad. Richard's been around a little while now. He'll know a lot of the players, and you can have a great time out there. But there are the odd occasion where it's not so much fun, but not too often. But big difference. It's nice to work as a team of three. You definitely get more of a buzz out of that. Sure. It's something actually that's coming much more into the game now as the referee numbers. I know you'll pick up on that, but as the referee numbers have picked up, and it's fantastic. You're more likely to be part of the team of three at the moment. And I think, and Cass, as a club man, will probably agree as well. How much nicer it is to see 3 officials. It makes life a lot easier than having to persuade one of the subs to run the line or what have you.
Yeah, 100%. Even down to the junior football. Some of the younger guys that are doing that and helping out, it just takes the coach can coach and enjoy his game then. And you're right. But moving on then from the intro about when you just talk around, what does it take locally to become a referee? What type of training do you have to do to stay fit? And also what courses do you need to go on to become a ref or find out about being a ref?
You'll be in place for this as RDO, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
I was just going to say I'll field that one, no problem at all. At the moment, obviously, Cass, we've got the local course that's being run very shortly. The JFA have put an awful lot of work in lately into marketing and getting more referees into the game. It's fantastic. When I did my initial course, I think it was going back to 2004. It was over 10 weeks. And I think it was a couple of hours every week in regards to that. And it was a different setup. But this is run on a Friday night and a full day Saturday, full day Sunday, including getting involved in some of the junior games at Springfield, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Trevor Massey, you'll probably be aware of. I think you probably met him last time he came over. Cheshire RDO, very heavily involved. I think he was a linesman at an FA Cup final. So very, very, very good referee, man. Comes over and he's going to be leading the course again. So lots to look forward to. But the actual course itself is very well done. There's obviously learning the laws, but also getting out there and doing some practical stuff, as I say, working, on some of the junior games, getting a little bit of a spell up there. And then once you get through the course, you're looking at being mentored for 5 games and then led through. But the huge difference, although I'm not complaining, certainly 2004 there was plenty of support there, but the support now is unbelievable, the difference. And I'm sure Richard would agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, and I think it was what am I now? So it's 2015. I think I took the course, and I think the community amongst referees is phenomenal. The kind of the support that you get to try and get you in once people are in. But there's kind of that's where you get your mentorship and your support after the training. And it was the same for me. It was a 2.5 day Friday evening and then Saturday, Sunday, based around kind of the theory of laws of the game and then kind of practical sides of it, of managing games, even down to the suppose competition laws and rules that you kind of need to uphold, team sheets and that you need to think about that you're responsible for.
Here's a question for both of you about football players and coaches, managers. Do you think they understand the laws of the game to the level that they need to? And if they understood a bit more of that, especially the new laws of the game, would it make match days a little bit easier? Or do you think there's a bit of an education piece there for players and coaches on the rules and laws?
I think it's a bit of a mixed bag, Cass, to be honest with you. I think there's some coaches, some players out there that would know the laws of the game as well as any referee, and there's some that would probably be quite shocked if they did a knowledge check and would actually be quite surprised what they didn't know. So I think there would be some good learning in there, to be quite honest with you. And I think, looking at the course and what we do and some of the laws, I think would be great benefit. But there are obviously some great football people out there that coach, play, what have you, would have a good understanding. But the laws, there's new laws being brought in every year. So it is, to get that understanding. Even you can imagine when we brought the sin bins in, for example, and a little bit of confusion, certainly from the players, the coaches in regards to that. So when little things like this get brought in, there can be some great benefit and some learning from that, definitely.
And you mentioned the sin bin there. How have these new laws, has it helped the game? Have you found it easier for you to then manage the game because you've got that extra support or point to make if you wanted to get someone to be sin bin for a certain amount of time? Has it reduced the red cards and stuff like that?
I think statistically, I think we're in the third season of the sin bins now. I think statistically it has shown an improvement. Very, very personally, I think they're a great idea. I really do. I think they're a good tool for a referee to manage a game. Ultimately, as a player, I think I'd much rather take a yellow card and a fine than spend 10 minutes off the game and let my team down, so to speak. Do you know what I mean? I mean, that player being off at certain points of the time can make a great deal of difference to a game. And, that feeling that you've let your whole teammates down at the end of the day. And that's a real deterrent, obviously only used for dissent. And it's a good tool. I think different referees use it in different ways. Some are more confident using it, some maybe not so much so. And I think it's something. We go back to that consistency, the word again. We try and feel, but I think it's a very good tool, very much so.
Good. Then just moving on to just try to get an understanding of your first game that you had, both of you.
Your first game was, from what I remember, very uneventful. It was an under-11s game at Springfield in part of the development, and that's normally quite a common way in for new officials. They're kind of you start. I think it was 3 or 4 games in when doing an under-15s local derby, I suppose. Really, St Paul's, St Peter's are quite challenging for games and quite good standard. That you then. It was when the first time I noticed that I was kind of standing out there and felt on my own a little bit, and all this is getting a little bit more serious. But yeah, no, it's again, you kind of you have your time on the pitch, you do what you do, and then you come off and you kind of reflect on it yourself. But also in those early games, you have people to talk it through and kind of you'll have a full discussion about kind of what were you thinking when you gave this decision, and just kind of pointers and tips that were really helpful.
Go on, Dan.
Were you nervous with the addition of having people watch you referee as well, refereeing in a sense?
You are. It's funny when you're out on the pitch. It's really you're quite narrow-minded of what's going on because you're kind of really concentrating on trying to pick up everything and being aware of what's going on around you. Yeah. Quite often, it's one of the reasons I think I really enjoy refereeing. I work in quite a stressful role within mental health, and actually that 90 minutes you walk on the pitch, you can't worry about your problems at work. You can't worry about what's happening at home. You are fully focused in what you're doing, and I think that's in some ways that's what I enjoy about it. It's that free 90 minutes where I don't worry about my problems or what's going on at work. Yeah. It's not always the best 90 minutes. You can offset sort of like if you're aware of kind of I suppose the difficulties we have and abuse and kind of the dissent we've talked about and things like that. But it is you're kind of engrossed in what you're doing.
I mean, you touched on a subject there that been brought up last week, and I think it's worthwhile mentioning for referees as well. How do you manage the mental health? Because it must be quite difficult when you've got papers, your local amateur level, and you've got newspapers criticising, you've got social media. How do you guys manage that, and how do you handle? Have you got a support network to your mental health, and how does that work?
Yeah, I'll lead. I mean, we've all had games where we've come away feeling that we've not enjoyed ourselves. It's been difficult. And sometimes even if you feel like you've performed badly yourself, you really find it difficult, and it's difficult to reflect on. It's a very, I think Rich touched on it quite well there before. It's a very close community. There's a lot of network out there. There's a lot of people we can all phone up for support, and we do look out for each other. I think maybe in times gone past, referees left the game because they felt, they'd had a few tough games or a really tough time. But it's a different time now that we've got so much support out there, so many people willing to get involved. And the other thing as well that perhaps I didn't mention in regards to, say, referees joining refereeing and start. There's no reason why, for example, if you were a little bit lacking in confidence or you weren't so confident yet, you can start off with just doing junior games. You can start off with just doing lower level games. So you just referee to the level you feel comfortable at, if that makes sense. Yeah. But in regards to support, a huge network out there. Is an awful lot of people that you can get in touch with. We're quite a social bunch as well. It's great. It's a real good community.
That's really good. And so your first game then, Paul, is in senior football. How was it? And how did your first game go?
I started off. I'm trying to remember back, but I started off with a few junior games, which was a different experience altogether. It was very odd. You do sort of feel quite self-conscious. You sort of think, "Oh, this will be easy." Kids are great, not so much on the sidelines, perhaps. But then you go into senior football. I think it was lucky for me because I know most of the players anyway from having played with them and different things. I really enjoyed it. Generally, you start off with over 35 games, C-team football and what have you, and you build your way up. I think the first season I did it, I really quite enjoyed it. I can't remember too many negative experiences. I think I was quite lucky in regards to that, as I say, but it is, as Richard said, it is, I mean, obviously with what I do for a living, I work in the police. So coming out and refereeing, it's a different ball game. It's a different ball game altogether, but I found it relatively okay. I can't think of many negative experiences.
You both got really good roles in the community, and you still find the time to stop and be a football referee. And I think that's the part that the human element of where they turn up with a black strip on every week and they destroy my happiness, and that's the sort of stigma that's there. And what we'd like to try and start is for people to realise that you guys have had a busy week as well, and you're coming there, you want to enjoy the game and you give what you see. And it sounds easy to talk about it. I mean, I'm a bit of a poacher come gamekeeper in that respect, where I've always got a lot to say, and I have to control myself on the side and really think about what I'm saying and what the impact is. And as you get older, you get wiser and more experienced. But it must be difficult for you guys to turn up every week and have the same, especially when you see the players so regular, don't you? It's not like you get like a 2-3 month break. You could send somebody off on the Tuesday and you've got to referee that club on the Saturday, and then there's all that emotion that builds with it. And that must be quite challenging to work with. And fair play to you both for having 2 great jobs and then coming and doing that. Just one more. Sorry, Paul. Just one other point on the. What's the best game that you've refereed and the highlight so far for both of you?
I really struggle with this, and I think kind of some of the best games that I've refereed are ones that you weren't expecting to be thrilling games, and you've come across and always for me it's the games that you come away and you feel that you're not the center of attention, or it's not a big decision that you keep sitting there that kind of you feel uncomfortable with. But it's going back to, I suppose, as well, that refereeing, that kind of being on your own in the middle. Sometimes it's you could go out there and think you've had an absolute perfect game, given everything you've seen. However, you're still going to have 22 players that will have different opinions of it because they see it through red eyes or blue eyes, kind of every decision slightly different, and we don't have that opportunity of VAR or kind of reviewing it in Sky Sports or Match of the Day, kind of where you can sit there and go, oh yeah, you know what, I'm right, I did get that one wrong, or kind of actually, yeah, spot on, I nailed that one and got that correct. So it's kind of it's nice when you come away and you've had a thrilling game and there's been lots of action, but you're kind of not been overly involved. You always feel good about those games.
So what game stands out? Is there one in particular that you can say St. Peter's v Wanderers or something that really stood out? What's the biggest occasion you've refereed at as well here?
I've been fortunate to go across to Guernsey a couple of times and get involved in a couple of the cup games over there and things like that, which has just been a nice event, nice day out, kind of getting the flight across. So that's always different. I think locally you always kind of hope to get a decent cup final at the end of the season that you can do, and because there's a bit more emotion or a bit more kind of there's more on the line. The same for the players. It's like it means something to people. So again, you feel like you're on the spotlight a little bit more. And
so cup final, is that what you're saying? A cup final's been your best one?
Cup finals, they're always special because you want it to be right. You want to get it right on those games more than any other game. So I think they're kind of the buzz is good when you come off them, and they've been a good game. You've enjoyed it.
Yeah, sure. Paul, what's your biggest game that you've refereed? Or
yeah, I'd agree with that, Cass, and I see where you're going as well. I think, as with Richard, we always look forward to the cup finals, whether it's fourth official, on the line, or in the middle. Working as a team, especially, I particularly enjoy up at Springfield. I must admit, it's been good fun. But one real highlight, I think I did the Star Trophy a couple of years ago, and I mean just the passion, the boys that were involved were brilliant on the day. They were all so up for it, and it meant so much to them. But the crowd was good as well. It must have been 300-400 people. It was held at St. Peter, and I think that was probably a game that I'll remember for many years, and it really stood out. I really enjoyed that, and I think I got a lot of nice feedback after the game from players, and great feedback for their attitude as well, and parents alike. It was just a really good day. So that's one game that stood out for me.
How hard was that for you? Obviously, Jersey man, reffing a Jersey Guernsey game. Is that always up there when, like, especially with like parents and stuff? Is it extra? Are you thinking about your decisions more?
No, not at all. It's absolute impartial, 100%, and I promise you that it's to me. I know 100% know that everyone that I work with in the refereeing community will say the same. You want to go out and you want to make sure you do the best you can, give the best decisions, and totally impartial. I would never consider that. Jersey, Guernsey, whatever. I just want to be part of a good game, and on that occasion, it really was. Thoroughly enjoyed it. For
sure, it's a great one to be involved in. In this year in particular, I've noticed there's been a huge rise in officials, and as you've been saying earlier, when there's been two linesmen as well as yourself, there's been a huge number of games where I've seen that. What's that down to, do you think?
My personal opinion, I hope I'm not talking over you there, Rich, but if I'll just quickly throw a few words in. The work going on behind the scenes at the JFA is phenomenal. I know Dave Kennedy's come in recently, fantastic football man, fantastic in regards to the business. Brian Oliver's put an awful lot of work in. There's other people behind the scenes, like Tim Pryor, brilliant marketing man, brilliant JFA man, Jonathan Lafondre, and the coaches, etc. But the work that's gone in there into marketing, refereeing, trying to get referees on board, and the support that's now being given to refereeing is I keep using the word phenomenal, but I genuinely mean it. They're looking at so many, professional development days, observer training. There's just so much to look forward to as part of refereeing now, and this has all been led by the JFA. Apart from all the great people that have worked in the refereeing community already, we're working so well with the as part of the JFA. It's phenomenal. Genuinely, I've got to stop using that word, haven't I? But the difference I've noticed it this year alone is how much the referees are their welfare is considered, the support, and also how much they're valued. Because you without a doubt, you're made to feel as very much part of local football. Without you, football's in trouble. We need you, and we're made to feel like that. And I think everyone in the refereeing community is just enjoying it so much. Really are.
Good stuff.
I'll mirror that with Paul. I think it's definitely about a more joint up bit of work with the JFA, whereas I think the two associations, the JFA and the Jersey Referees Association, ran very side by side, but not really working together. And I think there's been lots of investment this year. Paul's position as RDO with some hours associated to that, and lots of interest, I suppose, from Brian, isn't it? I think he's learned loads looking into the refereeing, whereas it was just an entity that sat on the side prior to that. So there's been a big movement, and again this desire to put a spin on the positive side of refereeing. That it is people that enjoy the game and want to be involved in the game, whereas I don't think that has previously been kind of looked at.
Yeah, it's certainly improved a massive amount in the last year. As I say, no disrespect to anyone previously, but the team that's in there now is working extremely hard, and there's I think the experience for referees is very positive now. That the support is definitely there, and you feel valued. Without a doubt, you don't feel. I think, Richard, I'm probably not wrong in saying you probably agree with us. We did sort of feel out on a limb a little bit previously. I would suggest.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sure.
Oh, good. Well, that is good, and that is about the governance. I remember when John Luke was involved in as the CEO, he put a lot of governance in place and definitely pulled a lot of stuff together. And now Dave, Brian, and the team there are driving it forward, like you say. And it's a beast of it's the biggest sport. I know some sports don't like you saying that, but it's the most played. It does take a hell of a lot of time and effort and resource to run it on a weekly basis. And it is important everyone understands what every little bit of the piece works towards, and it's to give players games of football on a Saturday or midweek, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Moving along into the season. Last season finished short. This season had an interruption. But how are you guys coping and handling with that? Were you enjoying the start of the season, and was there any teams or any games that stood out for you?
Personally, Cass, I think along with everyone, I think we've been so happy that we've been doing something, because it was so long a break, wasn't there? I've really enjoyed the start of the season. Obviously, it's a bit of a blip that we're back where we are again. It had been going really, really well. I think all the guys would probably say the same. I'm sure Richard would agree. I've been really enjoying it. I can't think of any specific games that stood out, but I think there seems to be a change. That people just seem to be so pleased to be playing football again. I think it's been going really well for me on a personal level, anyway.
And you, Richard, so you feel the
same? In agreement. I suppose the closing of football has been the most difficult thing. The fact I think it takes up so much of my time normally, whether it be coaching or kind of involved with refereeing meetings, and I'm quite surprised how much I'm missing it, to be honest. I thought all the free time would be nice, but the wife's now wanting to kick me out on a Saturday afternoon rather than keep me at home, which was the argument pre-Christmas.
I think we can all share that feeling, mate.
Yeah, so I think I've noticed this season I've stepped up a mark in kind of games I'm doing, and getting to do more games that are Premiership games and things like that, which is great, which again adds a bit more challenge to the games. I think there is our Premiership is very kind of there's lots at stake with games. So 3 points means a lot to teams at the moment in the Premiership, and kind of so it means that you could have big games with even games that you're not expecting to be quite so big, but which can throw up some challenges, I suppose, as a referee around that game management and things like that. But kind of generally really enjoying being on the field again, and missing that now whilst it's shut.
Yeah, because the games this year, all levels, they've been, especially in the Premiership, it's been really close. 4 or 5 teams all on any given day can beat each other. From a footballing point, it must have been exciting because the games were quite close. It wasn't like huge results and gaps between them. So I've watched a few games. I was really enjoying going to watch them. And one first half, one team's winning, second half, the other team wins the game, and you're like, I've not seen games like that for a long time.
Yep.
I've really enjoyed it. Sorry, go on.
Sorry, go on, Dan.
I was just going to say that I've been really enjoying going to the games as well. And I think the morale around football itself, I think because it got taken away, it's kind of people have realised how important or how much they actually enjoy it. And they took it
Yeah.
for granted for a bit. So I think that's really helped in a sense.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's one that's it's important to try and make it change, not just be a fad. It's something that, you know, we move forward with it and we realise actually football's more enjoyable if we all get on together, and there's going to be ups and downs and fallouts, but you fall out your own teammates, you know, so it's an emotional game, I think, and we'll never take that out of it. But
Yeah, I think that's fair, Cass.
Yeah, just one cheeky one from me, if you don't mind. I don't think it's appropriate to call anyone out that's still playing, but who's been the most difficult player that's maybe retired now, but that, and I'm not included in this, Kempy, right?
Oh, that's mine gone then.
Who has been the most difficult player that you've had to manage, or one where you turn up and you go, I just hope he doesn't start today, or she doesn't start today? Yeah, is there anyone that you would that stands out? And this is to be taken in humour. It's not having a pop at anyone, but I've got teammates that probably didn't want to play with me, so it's just a normal thing. Is there anyone that stands out?
There's always characters. I mean, for me, I can't think of anyone specific I've ever thought, oh, I hope he's not playing today, or I hope she's not playing today. Sometimes I actually enjoy the challenge, or I enjoy the banter, and if anything, it's a test of your skills. There's one player that stands out for me. I certainly won't mention names, but because he's quite scary and he's bigger than me as well, so I don't want to upset him.
You're a policeman, you'll be all right.
Yeah, I'm a big guy as well, but this guy's bigger. But he's all jokes aside, I mean, it got so bad at one stage, I did the usual stepped approach, got the captain across with him, said, look, would you get control of this guy, because he's going to, you know. And the captain just looked at me and said, do you honestly think he's going to listen to me? It was just one of those. And it's how you manage it. In the end, we had a laugh about it, and it's all very much high fives at the end. And, you know, that's what it's like. Football's a passionate game. And sometimes you're exactly right with what you said earlier. We're all very passionate about it, and we all show it in different ways. And I think sometimes you've got to manage it. But there's certainly no one that I can ever think of that I wouldn't want to see on a football pitch, shall we say. But there's a few that I'm sort of, this will be an interesting one.
And what about you, Rich? Is there anyone, have you been here long enough to have a pain in the backside that's retired now, that you'd be a bit braver than Kempy and give it a name?
Again, I suppose most of the people that I suppose that you sit there and think about that come to mind, not that it's passion, it's football, it's kind of, it's what happens, and I'm ducking this one as well, Cassie. I think I know.
I could probably name 5 or 6 off the top of my head.
You know who they are. They know who they are, and I've had a number of games that you walk away and you're like, oh bloody hell. But I think it's that you after it you reflect and you come into games thinking, can I manage it differently? Is there a way of getting rapport with these players that kind of can break that barrier a little bit? And I must say that even if you're kind of hated for 90 minutes on the pitch, most of the time you walk off afterwards and have a drink in the bar afterwards, or a chat afterwards, and there's not that issue. It is about the football and what's going on the game.
No, that's good to hear. Or maybe I'll ask it in a slightly different way. Is there any players that were really difficult that you've managed, and because you've had a relationship and a run of games, you've actually turned from being a pain in the bum to now something that you, like you say, Kemp, have you seen a trend where players are actually becoming a bit better behaved on the pitch and therefore enjoying the game more? Is that
I think certainly this season I've noticed a big change in a lot of people. I think people are just so relieved to be out there again and involved in football. I think you're right. I think Dan hit the nail on the head when he said that people have realised how important sport actually is for us in these times.
Yeah, you're right.
But there are players that, you know, like you also said, there was another point where you also said that because we're obviously in Jersey, we see people so much more. It's not like I'll referee someone and then not see him for a year or two, like it might happen in some of the counties in the UK. So you have to get on with people. And sometimes people will accept, you know, I think if like with anything, if you're honest enough and say, well, I'm going to make mistakes today, just like anyone else, and hold your hand up to it, or, you know, and just be personable, use some common sense and just referee the best you can. Approachable. I think you'll find most people will come round, if not all. Generally some brilliant, most people, but there's generally some brilliant people involved in football over here, and I for one love being part of it. And I think you do, as you see people more time to time. My personal approach is, and I'm sure Rich would agree the same, every game is a new game. It doesn't matter if I had dog's abuse off a player from the previous game, it's gone. You move on and you try and start again and just and try and get through. And I think most people seem to be reasonable with that.
I think a lot of it is they're very different people on the pitch than they are off the pitch, players as well. Yeah. And a lot of it is if they're not winning, the refs are often the scapegoat. So I think that's part of it as well. And how do you cope with that? In the back of your mind, you're like, the constant kind of, not constant, but when you do get the odd mouth off, how do you deal with that and say to yourself, it's not you, it's probably because they are losing?
I think there's a knowledge of that, isn't there? That actually kind of you're the one guy in the middle that's kind of making the decisions that they might not agree with because it's not going for their team, and you have to have that in mind. I know early on a couple of times come off the pitch and some people complaining about foul throws. Oh, it's a foul throw, that's a foul. And I walked off at half time sitting there thinking, maybe I don't know what I'm doing, but maybe I don't know what a foul throw is. And it wasn't, it was just that appeal, constant appeal that you get. And kind of, it was only afterwards that I kind of spoke with someone that was there with us at the time actually. And I said, have I completely got this wrong? And he said, no, none of them, all spot on. But you have to have that thick-skinned a little bit. That kind of, even if you say it's red, it's blue to the other team. Even if it's kind of obvious to you, they will appeal. That's part of it.
And there is an interesting trend that I'm hearing on the side of the pitch, or different, more than you ever hear it before. For people that are now saying you can't do that anymore, you can't speak like that anymore, you can't behave like that anymore. People are actually having that conversation around football, and I think that underlying that's a really good thing that's happening, because you're sort of saying, well, that behaviour's old school, you don't do it no more, and if you do, the consequences are too high. You miss 6 weeks of football and you get £100 fine. It's not worth it, so let's just go on and enjoy it. And I think managing it the way you do it and continuing to manage it in that way, I think the players will slowly, but they will get there. And it's really important that we train the juniors right, so they grow up with the right conditioning in them about what's right and wrong. And I think that's a really important space to go in and do in your game, to make sure that the discipline's right and they don't get conditioned to think moaning's acceptable.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right, Cass, and I think you're absolutely right in saying it's got to start at a lower level. Obviously, juniors, minis, even minis coming through. The kids got to realise that you've got to behave yourself. You've got to be respectful. You've got to do the right things. I mean, we all get frustrated. We all, people want to win. And that's sport in general. But there's a way of behaving, isn't there? And I think if you start them at a younger age, and I think one of the good things in regards to refereeing is you're getting so many more referees refereeing younger games. And I think that's starting them off at a younger age. So, I mean, under 12s, under 13s, they're now getting referees more. I think that's a good thing. I mean, it's a wonderful thing, but...
it looks that way. It definitely looks that way. I do feel a bit of a hypocrite shouting on because of the way I've behaved in the past towards players, refs, and I've always had too much to say. So I just want to make that clear that I'm not sitting here two-faced, saying one thing and behaving another way. I know I've had a bad record in the past of behaving that way, but I'm trying to make good about all you do is miss games of football, and then at the end of it you look back and you think, I was on the side more and should have been on the pitch, and it's not worth it. Not at our level. We play for to love it, and the game's amazing, and we need to make sure people love the game and respect it.
I think the only thing, I totally agree with that, and the game is amazing. It's wonderful, and it gives us so many hours of pleasure. I think the one thing that disappoints me, shall we say, I get it. I mean, we have a bit of a rant after, during a game, you have a go at me or vice versa, whatever. As the game goes on, you might have a whinge, you might have a moan about decisions. But I think if that rolls over and you can't get over that after 5, 10, 15 minutes after a game, you can't shake someone's hand, you can't be respectful. I think that's where it goes wrong. That's what gets under my skin. But I think, at the end of the day, we've worked together before. I think, not always agreed with decisions, but we get on, and 5 minutes afterwards we'll shake hands and we get on with things again, and that's wonderful. That's what it should be about. Everyone gets frustrated. We're not going to agree with every decision, but I think it's the odd occasion where people roll it over, and it's like the next week you see them, oh, it's him again. That ref, he's this, that, and the other. That's what disappoints me, and I think that's the one thing that we could really do with losing in the game. But it's very rare, very few and far between.
For sure.
Well, everything's a work in progress, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And I think something you're saying there is as well is the game's changing. The game has evolved. So if you go back 10 years, 15 years, actually those kind of tackles that used to go in and that football's become a lot more technical, and we penalise, I suppose, now for things that would be good tackles 10 years ago, that you would have wanted your central defender to do that. And I think kind of if you look at the development of coaching, the way that the kind of the FA do their coaching now, how that's changed in the way that kind of encourages and entices players to play in different ways and that at a younger age. So I do think it's all kind of catching up a little bit within the attitude of football. We are going through a change in how we play football and everything as well, that needs to kind of catch up a little bit.
For sure. Moving on to the future, for you guys, what are your goals for officiating, refereeing? Is there any target for you? Any games that you really want to manage?
Me personally, I'm approaching 50 now. My thing is, honestly, I enjoy the fact I'm trying to get myself a lot fitter. I want to be around the game as long as I can, looking at maybe getting involved more with observing, mentoring, and just seeing the younger referees come through. And just as a local thing, any sort of cup final you can get involved in, and there's some wonderful games of football. The Premiership's a quality standard, so anything locally, no great ambitions any further than that. I'm probably too old for that, sadly, but just keep myself fit and stay involved as long as possible for me.
For sure.
And myself, I guess I don't know. I hadn't come into it with an aspiration that I would be doing island game matches. It was kind of I kind of fell into it a little bit, and however, I do know that I've got drive and want to kind of. I always want to improve in things that I do. So sort of like I do think I've kind of developed and continue to improve, hopefully, as a referee, and if that gives me opportunities to kind of do things like island games or kind of local Jersey Guernsey games and that in the future, that would be absolutely brilliant. But there would be a bit of time, I suppose, before doing that.
I think the Jersey Bulls are. I've seen a few local wrestlers used for that from time to time, and it must be. I mean, 1,000 people at Springfield is like a Marathi Day. I mean, that must be something that you look forward to, especially with it being a different team coming over as well.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I think the Jersey Bulls. I can't. Rich will say the same. I keep saying Rich will say the same, but I think we all will say the same. The Jersey Bulls has been a breath of fresh air for the island, hasn't it? It's been fabulous. It's great for the players, great opportunity for them, but great opportunity for referees coming forward, and the opportunity to get involved in the Bulls games, and potentially once we get through all of this COVID nightmare, maybe us going back and forward for the UK to get involved in that league as well. There's opportunities there for younger referees, definitely.
Yeah, certainly something to look forward to as well.
Yeah,
hopefully.
I agree.
Lastly, how much would you say to maybe some people just watching this? How much would you encourage them to get involved and be a referee here in Jersey?
On my level, from myself, I would say it's a wonderful thing. There's no reason why you can't be we've got a number of referees who still play at a good level as well. Younger lads coming through. What a great opportunity to learn about the game and life skills as well. Certainly for the younger referees, I would thoroughly encourage it to come through. You learn so much, how to talk to people, how to manage situations, and you've got the support behind you, and never more than now. Great opportunity, but what a great game to be part of, and refereeing's fabulous. You get so much from it, and the odd occasion where you feel a little bit lonely, a little bit down, it's taken over by 10 times by the enjoyment you get from it, and the people you meet and the people you're involved with. So Huge fan of young lads getting involved in refereeing, learning more about the game, a little bit more understanding for them as they learn to play. You know, they're learning to play their football. They're going to learn so much more from this as well. So get involved. Big fan of it.
Yeah.
And is there an age where you start to get paid to be a ref? I think that for anyone that's totally outside watching or listening, it'd be useful to know that as well, because maybe that picks people's ears up a touch when they understand there's a, you know, we get paid.
Absolutely. Obviously, absolutely. You can't referee. The junior referees can't referee their own age groups, but we look at 14 and above CAS. 14 to 16 is they start off as what we call a level 9, and they can referee a couple of years below. But great opportunity. You'll have seen yourself. Now we've got a couple of superb young lads, 14 years of age, Roman and Finn, are getting involved. We've got Tristan moving on, and we've got a number of young boys coming through. Perhaps shouldn't mention names, but coming through with the RDC, which is brilliantly run by Paul Daniel, and they get to do a lot of the Ireland players, the Ireland squad games on the Friday night.
I've seen those games. Yeah, they do, and they train them well. They give them good mentoring. You were touching on earlier to make sure they get the hand signals right, the flags right. And it is good. And again, it's another part that's hidden that should be seen more to realise that we're all learning on the job and we're all going to make mistakes. But well,
those Friday nights are invaluable for them. I mean, they're invaluable for the boys as they play. You know, your lad, my lad were involved in that as well. The development centre is great for the young footballers, but it's also great for these young referees as well. It's such a safe environment. They're welcomed, they're wanted there, and they've got so much support around them. What a great way to learn. And they're never going to be pushed into games that they're not ready for or they're not comfortable doing. And that's the thing with refereeing that maybe might put people off, maybe that they feel like, oh, I don't want to be there on a Saturday afternoon getting screamed at by 16-stone lumps, you know, on a Saturday afternoon. It doesn't work like that. You get brought through and you do the level that you feel comfortable at, so to speak. But 14 is the age that we look to start them on the course.
It's certainly the GFA get a lot more joined up over the last few years, and it's another great example of another important part of it all.
Absolutely. Getting them involved is great. As I say, I'm a big fan of it, Cassie. We're getting these youngsters involved in football and learning so many life skills, but also trying to retain some of the older heads as well. What is always sad is that when a referee, perhaps due to injury, due to age, they feel that it's time to move on. But we're trying to encourage them now to stay in the game as mentors, as observers, and do the game to the level that they feel comfortable at doing. So we're trying to keep people involved in refereeing as long as possible as well. So it works at both ends of the scale.
Excellent, Joe. That's good.
Great. It really is. And without you guys, people have to remember there's no games. They can't be played. So you're like probably the most vital people in Ireland football in a way.
It's very kind of you to say. I'm not sure. I'd say we're just as vital, but the players, generally, it's a great experience for all of us to be around, and we should all go away having had a positive experience. Football's fantastic for all of us. But yeah, we are a very important part of the game, but also, you know, we know ourselves as well. We have to do the best that we can and do the best. You know, we want to give our best performance, and there's nothing worse for a referee. I've come away once or twice this season alone and felt like maybe I got this wrong, maybe I done, you know, and you want to give the best performance you can. And Rich will probably agree with me again in regards to that. So yeah, we are a vital part of it, but we're just as passionate as the players and the coaches and the parents and the supporters as well.
Yeah. And I think football would continue without referees, but the game's better with them. When there is a mutual in the middle that's going to take that and kind of I think it's underestimated the amount of time that people put aside as a referee to gain their own knowledge of the laws, their own kind of learning, the kind of it's not just turning up, and I think some people think that is you just turn up on a Saturday, you get your match fee and you walk away. It's much more than that. There's lots of kind of individual learning and reflection that you do on each game, and we tend to probably beat ourselves up more than we should do after games of decisions that perhaps we would do differently in hindsight and things like that. But
you go through the same motions as a player would, as a coach would, the ups and downs, getting things right, making mistakes. Everyone does it on match day. And I think what we want to try and do, I mean, we're not going to reinvent the wheel on this call, but certainly open people's opinions up to normalising that we're all part of the clock, the chain that makes football keep going round. And, need to like people, but you can respect what they do and how they, for 90 minutes. And then ideally, we have this season so far, some brilliant games of football.
Yeah.
Really close games. The league is as competitive as it's been for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And a great junior section coming through, a good girls section there. Centre of excellence, you say. The football, so many positive things to talk about. And I think over the years, spent far too much time on negative news and drama. And now it's the case of this is what we're going, and this is the people that's driving the game forward now.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yep.
Fantastic having you on, guys. It's been really interesting to hear your voices, basically, and just to hear from the referee side.
Well, thank you for the work you guys are doing as well. I mean, raising the profile of the game, it's been tremendous. Well done. So thank you for what you're doing too.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it. I think that's about 90 minutes. So that is the final whistle.
I think we went into injury time a while ago, Cass.
Yeah, fair good time. Good to meet you guys again. Kemp, great to see you. Rick,
Yeah, you
lovely
too,
to meet you.
Brilliant.
And keep up the great work.
Cheers, lads. Have a good one.
Yeah, likewise, guys. Love your sports, Cos. Keep it going, guys.
Cheers.
All the best.
Well done, Dan.
Cheers.
Cheers,
Take
guys.
care.
Well done.
Bye.